And sometimes love actually means being firm and direct, especially when you are seeing someone headed down a harmful path. And so in your work environment, you also need to be firm and direct. And I know that this seems very, very scary, but this is something that you will have to do and have to accomplish. In today's episode, we are discussing speaking up, or rather the lack thereof, whether it is towards a colleague, a supervisor, in a meeting, or maybe even in the following situations: calling out gossip or unhealthy talk among staff, challenging unethical behavior or integrity breaches, pushing back on leadership decisions that compromise your values, saying no to unrealistic workloads or last-minute requests, or maybe even voicing your disagreement with a colleague or a supervisor in a meeting. Not speaking up for the fear of the result, which is potentially conflict, is more common than you realize. So let's dive into this topic and see how you can handle this with truth and grace instead of shying away from it. Do you wish that you could lead your team in a way that honors and glorifies God? Are you struggling to overcome self-doubt as a leader and have a desire to be more confident in your role? Welcome to the Women of Faith in Leadership podcast. I'm Rika, and for the last decade, I've experienced my fair share of managing challenging employees and teams in middle management leadership roles. I committed my leadership journey to God, and it changed everything. And I'm ready to share everything I've learned with you. Now, if you're ready to lead your team in a way that honors God, grab that notebook and pen, and don't forget your chai latte, and let's dive in. I'm so excited because something extra special is happening at the end of June. I'm hosting a free Confidence Kickstart challenge. If you've been wrestling with self-doubt as a leader, feeling like maybe you're not cut out for leadership, then the Confidence Kickstart challenge is definitely for you. It's a free 1-hour live workshop designed to help you break free from the lies holding you back, and so that you can start leading with bold biblical confidence. We'll uncover where that self-doubt is really coming from, how to renew your mind with God's truth, and what it looks like to step into the leadership calling He's called you to be without fear. It's practical, powerful, and full of encouragement. So plus, I've got some door prizes and some juicy bonus offers for those who attend live. So if you're ready for a fresh start in your leadership, which will be confident leadership, you can go to events.womenoffaithinleadership.com. That is events.womenoffaithinleadership.com, and you can register there. I cannot wait to see you in the Women of Faith in Leadership group, where I will be hosting the event. But it's extremely important that you do register so that you will receive all the pre-homework and the homework after, because to win a door prize, you need to do some homework. So really excited for that. Can't wait to share those door prizes with you as well. And it's completely free. So just go to events.womenoffaithinleadership.com, and I look forward to have you part of the challenge. I hope you're as excited as what I am for the upcoming Confidence Kickstart Challenge, which I'll be hosting at the end of June. So just go and have a look at events.womenoffaithinleadership.com. Now, let's talk about not speaking up, okay? There is a cost for you if you avoid speaking up. Miscommunications can fester, resentment can build, you can actually lose credibility or influence, and your team will actually suffer from a lack of clarity or boundaries because you were afraid to speak up. And I do understand why you are afraid to speak up. You're scared of the confrontation. You're scared about how the person's going to react. You're scared to hurt that person, or they might take it the wrong way. There's so many reasons why you might not want to speak up. And I completely understand. When I was in one of my last leadership roles, one of my leaders I felt was doing something unethical. But I didn't actually speak up. And so it went on for a while, and I didn't speak up simply because I didn't feel that it was my place or my position to speak up, although it really was, because we were in leadership together. He was not my peer. He was my manager or my supervisor. And so really I should have spoken up either to him directly or to my two-up. But going directly to him would have been the first and best option. But eventually, a couple of years later, something came out within the finances that pointed to this unethical behavior. And so I eventually spoke up. And so guess what? I wasn't the hero or the person who solved the problem. I was actually also in trouble for not speaking up and for knowing that this unethical behavior was continuing. And so I learned a valuable lesson in that space, that even though it's extremely uncomfortable to speak up, and yes, there would have been conflict, yes, there would have possibly been denial, yes, there would have possibly been all sorts of things that could have happened, but I should have actually really spoken up. That's what I should have done. I should not have kept my mouth shut and just ignore what I saw, what was happening. But I think that I was afraid that if I confront my line manager, that that he would lose respect for me, or that there would be a confrontation. And I've always really struggled to think on my feet, which means that, if I'm in a confrontation, then afterwards, like an hour or two later, I'd be like, oh, I should have said that, or oh, I should have said that. So, and I'm sure you can relate with me on that one. And I'm not the only one. But look, confrontation doesn't actually equal aggression. Just because you want to go and confront someone on something that they're doing doesn't actually mean that you have to be aggressive. It actually doesn't even mean you have to be assertive. It actually just means that you have to speak the truth with kindness. And this is exactly what Jesus did. Let's explore 3 ways how Jesus actually handled conflict. As female Christian leaders, it's easy to feel like conflict and confrontation are the wrong thing to do, or worse, like unkind. But when we look at Jesus, we see a model of courageous truth-telling wrapped in grace. He never avoided hard conversations, but he always approached them with purpose, love, and clarity. So let's have a look at 3 examples. Now in John 4, John talks about the woman at the well. And Jesus didn't actually shy away from the truth of that situation. Now, if you can remember, the woman at the well had 5 husbands and a current relationship outside of marriage. So, Jesus came and he actually spoke the truth to her. He confronted her, but he didn't condemn her. And he also didn't shame her. He spoke truth with gentleness, revealing her need to not be condemned, but rather to be offered living water. And he invited her into freedom. And so the key takeaway here with the woman at the well is that you can actually speak truth without destroying someone. It's not about calling people out, but it's rather about calling them up. And so just like what Jesus spoke truth to the woman at the well, he didn't shame her. He didn't tell her in the nastiest of ways, you woman, you've got, 5 husbands and a current relationship outside of marriage. He didn't do that. But he spoke so gentle and so kind to her. So I'd really encourage you to go and read that example in the Bible in John 4. The next example is Peter's rebuke, which is in Matthew 16, verse 23. Peter actually tried to stop Jesus from going to the cross. And guess what? Jesus didn't actually sugarcoat it, because that was the time when Jesus spoke very plainly about his death and about the fact that he was going to rise again. So Peter actually said to him, "Heaven forbid, Lord, this will never happen to you." And then Jesus actually turned to Peter and he said, "Get away from me, Satan. You are a dangerous trap to me. You are seeing things merely from a human point of view, not from God's." Now, obviously, this sounds very harsh in terms of the way that Jesus spoke to Peter. And obviously, you're not going to tell someone in your workplace, "Get behind me, Satan." But the reason why he said that was because he needed to be clear about what was going on and about the spiritual weight of Peter's words. Jesus knew the spiritual weight of what he had to do and what he had to accomplish, but Peter did not. And so being very clear to Peter, saying that, no, this is basically something that I have to do. He was clear to Peter and he didn't sugarcoat it. And sometimes love actually means being firm and direct, especially when you are seeing someone headed down a harmful path. And so in your work environment, you also need to be firm and direct. And I know that this seems very, very scary, but this is something that you will have to do and have to accomplish. please come and do the Confidence Kickstart Challenge with me. Because in this challenge, we are going to speak exactly this, how you can be firm and direct and have actually confidence to do that, okay? And so then the third example of how Jesus handled conflict was the woman caught in adultery. Now, this is in John 8. And so Jesus, most of you would know this story. There was a woman who was caught in adultery, and the Pharisees were standing outside the temple, and they were going to stone her for being involved in adultery. And Jesus basically said to them, let the first one that is without sin throw the first stone. And basically everyone put their stones down and they walked away because they were all sinful. Jesus then tells the woman who was caught in adultery, he said to her gently, go and sin no more. And the key takeaway really from this story in John 8 is that grace and truth are not the opposite of each other. Real confrontation includes both truth and grace, and compassion with correction, or other way around, correction with compassion. And so all three of these situations was potentially very tough situations for Jesus to handle. He could have walked away. He could have actually done nothing. He could have been silenced. He could have just said, well, I'm worried about the effects that this is going to have on my relationship with my disciples, or I'm worried about this, or I'm worried about that. And look, yes, Jesus is divine, okay? But if we want to lead like Jesus, then we cannot only think about the things that Jesus did that was like just all the miracles and stuff. We have to also think about the fact that Jesus actually confronted the truth. He confronted the Pharisees. He confronted people who were doing the wrong thing. So he was not afraid to speak up, and that is part of leading like Jesus. And so I want to read Ephesians 4 verse 15 to you. Instead, we will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ, who is the head of the body, the church. That's the New Living Translation that I used. And this is, if we want to lead like Jesus, then we have to live out Ephesians 4 verse 15. And I'm going to read it again. Instead, we will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ. This scripture is really the cornerstone of grace-filled confrontation for you. It reminds us that truth without love is harsh and wounding. Love without truth is enabling but ineffective. But truth in love, that's what transforms hearts and preserves unity. That's why you need to start speaking the truth to your colleagues, but in love. And as leaders, our job is not to avoid difficult conversations. It's to approach them like Jesus did, with a clear heart, a kind tone, and a redemptive purpose. And if you've been avoiding a conversation because you don't want to hurt someone, pause and ask yourself, am I avoiding it out of love or out of fear? Remember what the Bible says about fear. Give your fears to the Lord. Do not fear, for I am with you. So if you are avoiding conversation because of fear, then my biggest challenge to you is that love leads to truth-telling. And truth-telling, when done with grace, leads to growth. If you want to grow as a leader, you have to start speaking the truth with love. And I understand that we fear rejection. We fear misunderstanding, or we fear damaging relationships. We struggle with people pleasing, or we don't actually feel confident in the way we communicate or in our authority. And I can attest to this, English being my second language. Sometimes I have struggled a lot in terms of what to say, but now I'm much more confident. Now that what do? I podcast on a weekly basis, which means I use my voice and I speak. So I have had to become more confident in those skills as well. And I have become more confident in it because I've been practicing it. And so, here are some practical tips for you before you have to speak truth in love. Pray before the conversation. Easy as. Pray before every single conversation. If you're sitting in a meeting and you have to speak up in the meeting, you pray in your head, dear God, I have to speak up. Please be with me. Prepare what you're going to say and rehearse your key points. Now, this is if you know you need to go and confront someone and you've got time to prepare. Sometimes you don't always have time to prepare in a meeting about what you have to say, but you know what you need to say. So pray and be ready to speak up. Remember to use I statements and not to place blame on the other person. Remember to stick to the issue and not the person. Don't make it personal. Don't touch on any personal attributes as well. And then follow up with encouragement and openness. Very important. So if you've had a conflict with a person or if you've spoken up, whether that was in a confrontational manner or whether you spoke up in love, which is what we're aiming for here, remember to follow it up with encouragement, with an encouraging email or, following it up with an email or with a personal conversation or with a phone call. Now, there is a 3-step framework for grace-filled confrontation or grace-filled communication or grace-filled truth speaking, if you want to call it like that. And step 1 is that you need to get clear with God. Before confronting anyone, go to God first. Pray for wisdom, discernment, and a pure heart, which is according to James 1 verse 5. Ask, what is the real issue here? What outcome honors you, Lord? Am I confronting to build up or to tear down? These steps guard your heart from reacting emotionally or selfishly. And according to Psalm 51 verse 10, it says, create in me a clean heart, O God. And I'll make sure that I put these prompts in the show notes for you as well. Step 2 then is prepare with purpose. Prepare the conversation with clarity, love, and intent, not fear. Let the fear go, people. Okay, define. What do I need to say? And obviously you don't need to write down everything. I'm a big believer in writing down everything because then I can wrap my head around, okay, this is what I need to say. This is when I need to say it. But if you just want to write down the core issues or the key points, that's fine too. And then what I mentioned before is frame it using I statements and curiosity. So I noticed or I feel concerned when. So those are good conversation starters as well. And then you can ask yourself, what's my tone? What's going to be my tone of voice that I'm going to use? Because remember, we don't want to sound condescending. We don't want to sound mean or aggressive. We just want to sound calm and quiet and maybe curious. And what examples do I need to bring? And how will I invite dialogue, not just deliver correction? Very important. And you can do this through those I statements that I just mentioned. I notice, I noticed that consistently for the last couple of weeks, these reports have been late. I had a quick look and I see that all of these reports were under your name. Can you tell me what has happened here? So you're not placing blame and saying, hey, your reports have been late every single week for the last month. What's going on? You're doing it a little bit differently. And so this step number 2 prevents confusion, defensiveness, or emotional derailment. It helps you to feel confident and composed when you speak. And again, I'll put these in the show notes for you because I have gone through them pretty quickly. And then step 3, speak with truth and grace. This is what we want, right? Which is what we're aiming for. When it's time to talk, do it with boldness and kindness, just like Jesus did. Stick to the issue, not the person's character. Speak truthfully, but also remember to listen with the intent of hearing what they say and understanding, not with the intent of responding and getting defensive. Stay calm, don't spiral into defensiveness, and offer hope for moving forward. You're not just confronting, remember, you're leading. So when you are confronting this person, it's not just about confronting them, it's actually about leading them, leading your team, and dealing with the issue at hand. It's not about winning in the moment. That's very, very important. It's not about winning or losing. It's about strengthening the relationship and honoring God through your leadership. You can speak up and still be kind. You can correct without crushing that person, and you can lead with clarity and compassion. And I want to end this session or this episode with this following prompt for you. Ask yourself the following. What conversation have I been avoiding? Okay. Why have I been avoiding it? Because of fear? Or is there another reason? And what are the consequences that you think is going to happen if you confront this person? And then flip it over. What would it actually look like if I approach this situation with truth and grace? Go and write it out. You're more than welcome to come and join the Women of Faith in Leadership community. Come and post it there and we can give you feedback. I want to help you to be a more confident leader because you need to learn to speak up. It is extremely important that you do not shy away from speaking up. Please come and join the Confidence Kickstart Challenge on the 25th of June, where we'll be diving deep into how you can become the confident leader you desire to be, to lead like Jesus and to speak with kindness, truth, and grace. Simply go to events.womenoffaithinleadership.com and go and register your attendance there. I really look forward to you joining me for the Kickstart Challenge, and then I will speak to you again next week. Can't wait. Bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts? It would mean so much to me to read your feedback. Also, it would really bless me big if you shared this episode with a fellow leader who might benefit from hearing today's message. And remember, put on the armor of God daily and walk by faith and not by sight. I'll meet you back on Monday for another episode.